and they embrace, and everybody at Ebo's brother's wedding cheers for Sue and Ebo.
That must have been a big hit to Ebo's ex-wife.
Right, they just take over the wedding.
Oh yeah, and they also sing.
Yeah, they sing. They just completely...
Like, pure wedding crasher.
Right. And for us watching the movie, even if you've been emotionally demolished through the movie, it's still nice to see that little scene with music singing. But
it's a nice scene.
But if you remove yourself and you imagine yourself in the third person as one of the members of the wedding party who's just sitting there witnessing this lady bust in and then hug this person who you may or may not know to be the groom's brother.
And then that person's little sister gets up on stage and starts singing.
But not good.
Not good.
Right, but it's obvious.
And then everybody's just like, yay.
Because it's obvious there's something, like, a little off with her. So you definitely have to sit here and be polite. There's nothing you can do to stop this.
Right.
But you're also like, this is not your wedding in your head. You have to be like, this is not your wedding in your head, because that's the only thing I'm thinking the whole time.
I mean, they're honestly lucky that Ebo's ex-wife wasn't, like, having a bridezilla moment.
Right. Okay, so on to the next thing with Ebo. Now, there's a scene that I wonder about. The scene where Ebo almost has sex with Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Where we have the musical number with Ebo in the oversized pants, and he's running on the treadmill and run dancing on the treadmill.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Right. You also see him emerging and descending out of an oversized, hollowed-out Bible, and it is, I already said, kind of Dracula-like. I suppose my only question, because I just really want somebody else's opinion on this, do you think the oversized pants represented him putting on a condom, potentially?
I didn't think so.
Okay, so that's just me. There's something about the oversized pants.
The oversized pants, I feel, was mostly about kind of like almost having big shoes to fill, you know?
Big shoes to fill, because there have been a lot of people down in that dumpster, and there's expectations to meet.
Right. I mean, that's also setting himself up for his emotional masochism, because he's always not going to be good enough.
Right, always not going to be good enough, right?
Right.
And then he just goes there, and she's already asleep.
Yeah,
and
that's what happened.
Right, he don't bother. He don't bother.
He's like, oh well.
Oh well.
Oh bother.
That's what happens to Ebo. So do we want to move on to Kate Hudson next, or do we want to move on to music next?
No, let's do Kate Hudson.
Okay, let's go for Kate.
We'll save music for last.
We've been jerks to a lot of people in this movie. We've been pretty rough on Sia. And honestly, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for her because I know she had a lot of depression after this movie, and because I know that she tried.
Yeah, she did.
Here's my first thing I have to say about Kate Hudson. Now, everybody makes mistakes in movies. That being said, Kate Hudson should share a lot of the blame here.
Yeah, she should. She absolutely should. I love Kate Hudson in other movies. Like, I thought she was funny in Bride Wars. I thought she was really, fun to watch in Fool's Gold. She's good in other things. This is not one of her best.
This is not one of her best. And my biggest issue is she was the most experienced person there.
Yeah, she is, honestly.
She's the most experienced person there, and I feel that she honestly should have been a little bit more influential in the role.
Well, I think too much of it is where she's just kind of playing like a goofball all the time. And like it doesn't feel appropriate to be a goofball at some of those times.
It doesn't feel appropriate, and I know she's not a director, but my thing is that she should have known that the character didn't have an emotional arc.
Right, and she should have grown, exactly.
But no, she just wrote out the tone-deaf character.
It was almost an amateur mistake.
The character, Zoo herself, is an unforgivable monster.
She is.
I mean, I called her a sociopath, and I feel like she is a sociopath, honestly.
Yeah, she is. She doesn't really do very much good throughout the movie. I mean, even towards the final, moments of the movie, she's about to give music away.
She's about to give music away right before the end. I mean, here's the thing. George cleans her up again, sends her off to AA again, and at the end of that process, her whole arc is to go back to the people pound, as she put it, and
the people pound.
Right, and almost get rid of...
That's what she calls it, the people pound.
And almost get rid of music again. And it's only because music speaks for the first time in this movie beyond Makes You Aches or Braid Your Hair, that she actually decides to keep music. And then, and they bust out of there, and it's supposed to be this, happy moment. And they're all like, yeah! Like the suitcases.
Mm-hmm.
And it's... It makes you want to get away from that person.
The role of Zoo wasn't even meant to be for Kate Hudson. It was supposed to be Shia LaBeouf's.
Oh my gosh, that is a whole discussion topic. As we had mentioned, there was a previous relationship with Shia LaBeouf and Sia, and the role of Zoo...
And I think that was, like, shortly after Chandelier, and, like, right around the time during Elastic Heart.
And so the role of Zoo was originally meant to be played by Shia LaBeouf.
And you can tell.
You can tell. It would have been a far darker movie.
Far darker, but honestly, Shia would have given the character an arc.
He probably would have given the character an arc, and the fact that Kate didn't see the issue there... and also, your lines might be scripted out for you, but you're working with Sia. I'm sure you have some kind of flexibility, and if you don't, you're also the one who's deciding how they're delivered. Right. You know, there's some importance in there. But
I'm sure Maddie was happy that it wasn't Shia playing the role, because I remember throughout the entire shooting of Elastic Heart, she was complaining about his smell.
Oh, I know, right? And here's the thing. Just as a brief example of Zoo as a character, we start off with Zoo asleep in an AA meeting.
Right.
And then she is just an instant POS to the person who's hosting that meeting and trying to get her out of there.
Uh-huh.
As she is to everyone. That's right in the beginning of the movie. Right. How do we see Zoo in the middle of the movie?
Well...
I mean, what I remember is her on the side of the street in the kiddie pool with the hose, spraying up George in the second window, just, woo!
We're setting it free!
We're setting it free, George! Woo! And it's so rude. It's so absolutely rude.
Right. And then on top of that, she loses money and she's like, oh, sorry. Oopsies.
Oops. I'm sorry I lost that like $16,000 of yours in the park because I was absent-minded and I forgot that
I left the bag on the ground.
That I left the bag on the ground and that my stepsister, who I take care of, is allergic to bees.
Right.
Right. And then if you were to look at her at the end of the movie, where's she at the end of the movie, at the end of this arc?
Ready to give music away.
Ready to give music away, and then moments later crashing somebody else's wedding.
I mean, they all lived happily ever after, right?
I mean, assumedly.
Assumedly.
All right, so let's talk about Maddie then. Let's talk about Maddie's role as music.
You know, Maddie doesn't do a bad job. She really doesn't. I think a lot of the choices that brought the movie down for her character, I feel like that's mostly Sia's fault.
Right, because Maddie was already doing this freeform dance with Sia.
Right.
Where she would be very expressive with her face.
And that's probably what Sia really liked, the facial expressiveness.
Exactly, but then when she has to play somebody who's autistic and she's doing a similar level of facial expressiveness and you have somebody who's watching the same scene over and over again.
And she's just like, more!
More, because as you watch it over and over again, it becomes dulled to you. You become dulled to it. And then you don't see what's happening in front of you.
Right.
And you have the performance that we see here. I mean, the blocking is, I guess it's not all bad. The problem is with the facial expressions is they're all too close together. And then the character also doesn't have any emotional range.
Right, and they try to explain all of these, like, choices and decisions with that one scene where they're on the walk, and they're, like, explaining all the things that she looks at, and the little things, the way she, like, looks, the way she turns her head, how she's storing information. It's an exposition dump. It
is an exposition dump, but my problem is that you never actually see anything but happy music. Music's always happy. That's the only thing you get is happy music the entire time.
I am happy.
I am happy.
I am happy.
I am happy.
Didn't she say I am scared at one point?
She said I am sad at one point, and that's right before Ebo almost has sex with Zoo. I am happy, I am sad. And I think it's just setting the tone for the music video that's coming up.
Right. Yeah.
And then she did some of the research for this by watching YouTube videos of autistic kids having freakouts that their mothers had posted. So then, of course, she's
They're going to be a little...
Well, what videos will get the most views? The worst freakouts.
The worst ones.
And some of those might not even be real because the moms just want to get views. And
right, yeah. I mean, we live in a day and age where that happens regularly, actually.
And it's not a good dynamic for research. It's not a good dynamic for research, and you didn't have anybody leading her and giving her directions otherwise, and that's a problem.
Well, and unfortunately, that's about as much as we have to say about Maddie. I mean, because her character is just so one-tracked.
There is one moment when her grandma dies that she is sad for one moment. It takes about a minute and a half in the movie, and then she is back to completely happy music once again.
Right.
And then there's one moment with Zoo's All Beat to Hell, where she comes up to her and she has some trepidation in her voice. But other than that, then she's just right back to super happy music.
Super happy music, or tantrum music.
Or tantrum music, right. Those are the only two states that music is ever in the entire movie. Okay, so do you want to address what Sia got in trouble for?
Well, she got in trouble for not using an autistic actor to play the role of music.
And, I mean, we've discussed this a bit, so...
I am in the stance that I agree. I think an autistic person, someone who is actually autistic, should have played the role of music. I love Maddie Ziegler. I would have still wanted her in the movie somehow, but not as music. Maybe she could have played Zoo.
Here's my criticism, is that an autistic person might have been able to play the role, but only somebody who's on the autistic spectrum.
Well,
not somebody who actually suffers from the same degree of autism that the character is supposed to suffer from. The idea that a non-communicative autistic person could sing and dance and take directions and act reliably for a first-time director is a little bit of a stretch, and that's not to be mean to the autistic community at all. That being said, could higher functioning autistic people likely have performed that role? Probably.
Well, I was thinking about the actress from American Horror Story, from the first season. She was also in the third season with the witches.
Oh, right, she is great. I really do.
I'm trying to remember her name. Jamie Brewer. I feel like Jamie Brewer from American Horror Story. I think she would have played the role pretty greatly. I even think she could have managed the singing to an extent.
Well, the singing, but the dancing and the choreography, it becomes hard. And possibly.
True.
Maybe. It does depend on the person. That is...
I think she would have been the strongest person to pick, though.
Right. That being said, I do understand the difficulty that Sia had in those casting decisions. And right. So I personally don't fault her too much, but I also come from a place where I don't have an issue with straight people playing gay roles.
It is kind of in the same vein, I guess. But also, we live in a day and age where a white person can't play Apu.
No, and I get that. But I also understand why a white person played Apu to begin with, because when cartoons first come out, they generally have one voice actor.
Right, who has the job of doing all the characters.
Right, about a dozen characters, because it's a budgetary thing. I mean, that would be The Simpsons, that'd be Family Guy, that'd be South Park, that'd be all of your big ones, how they started out. All of your big name creators started out doing dozens of voices, not because specifically they were trying to take the roles of other races of people or
away from them, right? No, they just are working on a small budget, right. A small cast. They have to make do.
And that being said, I'm fine with them not having Hank Azaria's, voice Apu any longer. I would love.
Having said that, I mean, this isn't the situation with music.
No, it's not the situation with music.
I mean, the situation with music was Sia wanted Maddie in the role of music, so Sia did what she had to.
And Sia was familiar with working with Maddie. That helps a lot. There was a lot of dance experience. That made it a lot easier. There was a lot of logical reasons to make the choice to cast Maddie in that role.
Yeah, there are. She does the best that she can with the role.
She does do the best that she can. She was 14 at the time, and I think the Maddie Ziegler that is around today has learned a lot from these lessons, and I think you would see a lot better performance out of her.
Right, I think you would.
Alright, so let's get to our favorite scene, our least favorite scene. Nohea, what is your favorite scene in the movie music, the film by Sia?
God, there's not a lot to choose from.
Right.
I'm drawing a blank. Maybe you should go first.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead and go first. So we had to look it up so I could remember that the name of the musical song from Music is Music in the movie Music. And it makes me tear up every time now. It's sad. I really like the costuming and the set.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you have some water in your eyes too.
Stop.
Right.
It's a little sad.
It's a particularly well choreographed number. Every time it starts off and you turn the music off so you don't get sad and you watch Kate Hudson singing, you can hear the music along to her singing. They just do a really good job of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the dance number is well done. And it's heartfelt.
I mean, it should be. It's the title number.
It's heartfelt. And it's a great dance sequence with